Correct.
Although, what sport are we talking about?
Lacrosse. Chris Hogan, big lacrosse guy. In case you're uninformed.
Hey, did you know that Jimmy Graham played basketball?
I did not. Do you hear the music right now or no?
I do.
Okay. You should zest me, Josh.
Best.
Excellent. Has anyone ever told you that you're cute?
Once.
Just once?
I believe him. All right, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do this.
Is it particularly gloomy down in Big Lake today? Because it is gloomy as hell up here.
Oh no, sun's a shining, birds a chirping.
Christ. Are you feeling happy or are you feeling rocky today, Josh?
Oh, a little bit of both.
Just pick one, Josh. Humor me. Or how about one or two? You don't know which one is listed first or second. Just say one or two.
Two.
You got it, pal.
So I got to thinking with Walters and Jack having announced that their podcast is coming back and them doing pick'ems and things like that. Since Walters made our intro, I would really like to learn how to make the cuts and stuff, and I think I could. But
you sure could.
I wanted to go like 10 seconds and then just a record scratch, and then us voicing over and going, "Who the fuck does this guy think he is?"
Do it. The audio files are in the email. You could just download them and then.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah, you can fuck with them at your leisure.
And then that would be an Audacity, I'm guessing.
I mean, it could be Audacity, it could be whatever else. Really, the world is your oyster, Josh.
I don't like oysters. Got 2 minutes. I could probably get it done before we start.
I don't have that much faith in you, if I'm being honest. Maybe 3 minutes. If you had 3 minutes, you'd probably be good, but at 2 minutes, that's pushing her. Josh, can I let you know that you look like Jesus right now?
I had a funny story about that.
Except Jesus was brown.
Hey, did you just assume my identity?
Did you just say you're Jesus?
No.
Well then no, I said Jesus was brown.
Well, you assumed I'm white.
What's going on, everybody? We have teched it down just a little bit. We are hoping that my computer can actually handle what we're throwing at you live tonight. It is September 2nd. We're already in September, people. And we're here to talk draft grades. We hope you enjoy it. But first, our main man, Walters, who is now our fierce competitor, has something he wants to say.
Welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix with your lovely hostesses, Garlic Johnson.
We're going to need to take a break here while I change my pants.
And Josh Mitchell.
Sitting here undefeated in everything I do, except fantasy football. No, I'm not allowed to handle crayons.
Not after last time.
Not after last time.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Garlic and Josh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of your lovely hostesses, just like Walter said, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined by your other lovely hostess, the Joshua Mitchell. Say hi to the folks, Josh.
Hi, folks.
Nailed it. If you want to engage the show, you can do so. hiddenoaksoverdose@gmail.com, facebook.com/hoodpod, or anchor.fm/hoodpod. Those are all the places you can interact with us. We are still on our journey that is very slow moving to 100 subscribers because currently our YouTube channel URL is ugly as hell. Couldn't even tell you the letters or numbers that are in it. But we would like to someday be youtube.com/joshIsAwesome or youtube.com/hoodpod or whatever we have available to us, but something like that. Currently, we're sitting at 16 out of 100, so be a friend, tell a friend, make a bunch of fake Gmail accounts. I don't care. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel and get others to do it, and then we'll shut up about it. As soon as we hit 100, you'll never hear about it again. If you're listening to the audio podcast, the segment start times are in the description below. And thank you, Levi Oki, for the beautiful art that everyone can see. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I don't understand why you find it to be such a big deal that we need an URL. I actually kind of like the UC201 SA8 RT6CO FUK. Interesting.
Is that what it is?
LSSDW. Yeah, it's capital FUK, just kind of right in the middle between 69. It's FUK. I wish I was lying.
So 6 fuck 9 is what you're saying here.
Well, 6CO FUK OV9 L SSDW.
So there's a little bit more sandwich to it, but so you think that's better than youtube.com/JoshIsAwesome or youtube.com/Josh or SquashesPod? What about SquashesPod?
SquashesPod is okay, but this is my middle name, so I wouldn't mind keeping it that.
Okay. But how are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing well. I'm sitting in the same chair I've been sitting in since 7:45.
I thought you didn't start working until 8:30. Or is it always?
I mean, yeah. I logged in at 7:45 and I hung out in here for a little bit. Got up at around 6 because Kaya is Kaya.
Okay. Yeah. No rest for the wicked.
I had softball last night, which brings me to the point you made when there was 28 seconds left in the countdown. They nicknamed me the Softball Jesus.
The Softball Jesus, because anyone who can see the stream right now, Josh has kicked up his brightness all the way. There's a huge contrast between Josh's all-white background and my dim, dark background because all the natural light focuses on me and then everything else behind me gets darker. So do you identify as Jesus or no? Just to be clear for the folks.
I do not. I did not find that nickname to be appropriate. I am not Softball Jesus, but I did get a chuckle when they said Father, Son, and Holy Dingers.
I do love that. Are you going to do that every time you go up to bat now? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Dingers? I mean, that's perfect.
I will not. I will not be doing that.
Come on. Why?
But I do think that needs to be put into a t-shirt somewhere.
Caramel Bear? You're not listening, but you should probably get on it. Also, shout out to Jesse. I want to acknowledge the fact that Jesse is currently in the chat. He said, y'all better be social distancing. We are currently approximately 140 miles apart, 160 miles apart. So, Jesse, if that's good enough for you, I know most people say 6 feet, so we're overdoing it a little bit, but hope that's good enough for you, Jess. All right, Josh, is that all the chit-chat you want? Anything else going on in your life? Anything else you find worthy of noting before we get into the meat and potatoes?
I guess not really. Nikita hit a deer the other day, so her car's out of commission.
Is she okay?
I don't know. The deer's dead, but I mean, Nikita's
So
fine.
it was a doe.
Yeah, no, it was apparently one was laying down on Highway 10. Great spot for a nap. I can't blame him. And there's another one, and so she made the decision to run over the one laying down, I guess. And obviously, scary situation. Her car took some damage, but thankfully, I don't have to drive into the office, so she'll be driving my car for the week and a half.
Nice. Well, that's good that you guys got something figured out. So, true story. I have also ramped a deer. So it's probably maybe not the same situation, but T was there. We were sitting there driving. Long story short, we were driving home from Arizona. I was on some freeway in the middle of the nowhere. It was probably 3 a.m, pitch dark. Everyone else in the van is sleeping. There's a fucking bitch ass semi going like 5 under the speed limit on the freeway in the right lane. I go ahead and get right there in that nice left lane, yeah, that no one else is in conveniently, yeah. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I get into that left lane, I happen to see a pretty cool a deer just chilling there right in the middle of the fucking lane, laying down, taking a nap like you said, perfectly legs facing towards me. So like I said, it appeared, like at first I thought it was a trash bag, but I did end up ramping that deer because there was no chance I was getting back in the right lane. Once we got to the next gas station, there was guts and everything else spewed up on the back of the van. But the van is untouched and still is in commission today. Literally nothing happened to the van. So I don't know if I was blessed by Holy Dingers himself or what happened, but probably something bad should have happened to that van in the middle of fucking New Mexico or wherever we were, and it didn't. So,
and you fed T for a week.
We did. So obviously we had to pull over, strap the deer to the top of the van. We weren't just gonna fucking leave it there. That is dinner for a while, Josh.
Right? Probably T probably made some nice coat for it.
A coat for the deer or from the deer?
He's a little weird. Yeah, he made a coat for the deer from the deer. Doesn't realize that it's actually already a coat for him. But hey, we let that short little guy do what he wants.
He is short, isn't he? All right, Josh. Let's no further delay. Let's get right into the Fan Tasty Zone, and our Fan Tasty Zone is brought to you by Arnold Palmer. Again, fuck you, Brian. We got the Southern style. I'm gonna keep drinking it because it tastes like summer. Ooh, that was a good one. I could see it. Josh, you got any Fan Tasty Zone sponsors today?
Just good old rum.
Are you Jack Sparrow? Ooh, I look like a good hearty sip of rum.
No, I'm the Punisher.
It clearly says Josh right on the fucking cup. I mean,
shh, don't give away my.
Is your name Punisher
identity.
Josh? Do you have 2 names?
Don't worry about it.
All right, into the Fan Tasty Zone. So we did get a little fan interaction. That's where the fan in Fan Tasty Zone comes from. Last week, I didn't even notice this until legitimately 15 minutes before the show. We got an email from Walters last week that you must have read because it was never unread when I looked at the email box. But we got an email from Walters. It says, this email is mainly for Garlic. This is in regards to the last week's show.
Oh, I read that.
Right. So he says, first off, you falsely stated that you guys lost the Walters comedy bit. To lose something means you either misplaced it or are missing it, and since neither of those are true, especially the latter, the Walters comedy bit is not lost, it's just not happening because it's not funny. Second, you stated near the end of the episode that Josh must not have started mocking this year. That is also incorrect. You, Josh, and I are in multiple group chats together, and we frequently hang out in the same Xbox Live party chat, and Josh never seems to stop mocking me. I am not sad about this, just stating facts. Anyways, I enjoyed listening to the pod. Keep up with the good work. Walters. Sent via Samsung Galaxy S8 and AT&T and 5G Evolution capable smartphone. That last line really hits home. But so,
yeah, that's going to be on my tombstone.
Are we not, in fact, missing the Walters comedy bit because we planned for it? Now it's not here. How can he say we are not missing it? Does that logic follow?
His comment was wide left to me, I guess.
All right. Why you got to do that in the beginning of the show? You can't even wait till like the middle.
I take whatever opportunity I can get. But as far as Walters, yes, we are missing the Walters comedy bit because it was something that had been talked about for months. Like, I mean, we'll act like we put months of preparation into this podcast, but
could you imagine?
Right? Could you imagine preparation? That stuff's for hemorrhoids. But yeah, we talked about it. We thought, oh yeah, we'll give it a shot. We'll let him run this season through, and we even tried to hire writers for him. He said, no, I got this, and clearly he didn't. What was he doing that entire time he had planned on this? I told him to start jotting materials down.
Yeah, he tried once, and he had, I don't know. Anyways, Josh, let's move on to the next email. Our next email is coming at us from Brian from the last show. Brian, very frequent member of the show.
I want to just go ahead and say, Brian, I want to look at him as more of a, he's a co-host. He's an honorary, never seen, never heard co-host, because he's the only one that ever contributes.
I mean, co-host is a bit strong, but he is certainly a regular contributor, like a Marnie or a Rosie, or he's not. He's not a co-host.
He's our Mark Rosen. Okay,
sure.
Yeah, he's our Mark Rosen.
That's fine. He can gladly be our Mark Rosen. Anyways, from Brian in regards to last week's show. Listen to the 256 show. For the most part, you guys did well. Only a couple teams where you seem to be smoking something. Since life is always more fun with money on the line, let me throw out a $5 prop bet for you to ponder. I will take New York and New York against the Packers. Total wins. I would also give you the Chiefs on an over of a 13.5 line. How about give you guys the Titans at over 11.5? Let me know. Glad Arnie is back. Love the Grum. Brian Knupp, his phone number, his email. And, Josh, I don't know if you saw this little bit. You could easily overlook it, but if you look in his signature in the email, he did include his social security number. It's probably a made-up number, but he included a social security number. There is 9 digits there in the format of a social security number, so I am led to believe we have Brian's social security number. You think the last 4 is his bank PIN? Think it's an important digit anywhere in his life?
We could probably check it. I'm gonna go ahead and guess it's Brad's social security number, and he just wants us to start living his son's life.
But could you imagine stealing Brad's identity? Would anyone even want that?
I mean, I wouldn't mind. He has a pretty cool dog that eats Cheez-Its.
That's cool. That is cool, and that is true. All right. Well, anyways, Brian, so that was our last email, so we'll transition. We're still in the fantasy zone, but Brian, your propositions go from okay to absolutely terrible. Josh, I don't know if you read these and if you had anything prepared, but here's where at least I stand. Brian, firstly, to your proposition of New York and New York against the Packers. That one interested me the most out of the 3 of them. I am certainly willing to take the Giants and the Jets versus the Packers, but just to tweak it slightly, I would like the Pack +1. I think that's more than fair. I'm just asking for one extra game. So the Giants and the Jets versus the Packers +1, I would lock in that $5 bet today. With the KC, we get the over at a 13.5 line. Go fuck yourself. Absolutely not. I'm not taking that. Josh, do you want any of that action?
No, God, no.
Okay. And then with the Titans we get the over at 11.5. I said I would take the Titans at 10. So we would push at 10. He gets 1 through 9. We get 11 through 16. And that's where I would do that at. So, Josh, do you agree with my counters? Do you want to take Brian's proposals as is? Or how do you feel about Brian's, money on the line for the bet board here?
I would take the Titans at 10. I'd even go 10.5. Just
wow. So you'd undercut me half a game, huh?
Happy.
I see.
Just to keep him a little happy. How about 10.25?
It's really no difference if it's above 10 then. Okay. All right, final offer 10.1. No. Well, that's where I sit. So Josh, if you want to make your own individual bet, we can have various bets on the bet board, but someone's got to go create the Hidden Oaks Bets Twitter account to make this official. But anyways, so that's my counter for myself, Brian. New York and New York plus versus Pack +1. Not taking KC in any event. And I'll take the Titans at 10. Sounds like Josh would take the Titans at 10.5. So you can decide what you want. Josh,
I mean, if he gives you Titans at 10, I'm taking Titans at 10. I'm not gonna.
He's gonna price discriminate. Why if he couldn't get a better deal with you, why would he not separate the deal? So probably text us individually, be like, yeah, Gar agreed to 10.5. Do you want to smash that in? He'll sucker you, Josh. Brian's a smart guy.
Yeah, I smart.
But anyway, so you're with all my counters then, or no?
I'm with your counters. Yeah. So
all right. So we are
Brian
unified.
That, he can pretty much double or nothing it with me.
All right. So we are unified. Oh Christ! I dropped my phone. We are unified as a podcast, Brian. We don't take any of your bets as face value. We have 2 tweaks to 2 of them, and the third one you can fuck off.
I can't wait to read the email about the little 10.5 bit that you're going to try and edit out.
How dare you? What do you mean try and edit out? I've only edited out my name from the podcast. That's it. Anyways,
no, you didn't, did you?
Anyways, Josh, if there's people here watching us, it says we allegedly have 4 viewers right now, and we don't want to disappoint them. We've probably already dawdled too long. We're here to talk about the Hidden Oaks draft and how we're going to grade them. I had a better thing in my head, then I lost it mid-sentence. That was cool. Anyways, we're grading the Hidden Oaks draft. Josh, are you ready for this?
Born ready.
Well, first of all, this is how we started last year. How do you feel like the event went? It was still in the Branches' backyard. Grass was crispy. The wind was still blowing, not as bad as last year, but there was still a little wind. No Robin this year, so there's no long delays in the picking. But how did you feel about the event, Josh?
I thought it went well. There was a minor bee sting in there.
There was a bee sting on a non-drafting member, by the way. She should get off the court next time.
Yeah, no, that's caught in the crossfire is what I like to say. But overall, I thought it went well. People showed up. Kyle, we had a celebrity drafter.
We had two celebrities drafters. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. We did. We had Laura there. Still mad she didn't draft Van Jefferson, like you said.
Great opportunity. Yeah, Jamie, if you ever listen to this, you could have had someone on your team named Van. I made that very clear to Laura many times, and she decided to draft someone else. So, is she really your friend? Probably not.
Yeah, no, it's a horrible, horrible person, that Laura Landvik. But her husband was there, and he's a good guy. So I guess
Mr. Landvik.
Yes, Mr. Landvik. Overall, I thought it went well. Obviously, got made fun of because I made a sandwich about near the end. But
I don't know if you can call it made a sandwich. You brought out a bagel and what appeared to be mayonnaise or cream cheese or whatever it was. It was runny.
It was definitely, it was bread from the Target bakery.
And it looked like a bagel from my angle. That was a bagel.
It was close. It was like a baguette. I mean, that's the same first 3 letters. And so, slice that bad boy open. Put on a little bit of mayo, tossed on some ham, some turk, a couple slices of cheese, and then I just topped it off with a bunch of chips because I didn't have a plate to put chips on.
You're my hero, Josh. All right, anyways.
I got made fun of.
Moving on from the bagel, I think it was a good event.
It was a sandwich, by the way.
To Willie and Hammer, I hope you you both have kids. I'm not saying you shouldn't have been on Skype, but I hope you realize that Skype is certainly inferior to being there in person. T, who didn't even get to draft your team and probably cares more than Jamie does, get your shit together, man. You should either be there or at least be on Skype next year, and you won't end up with a team that we'll talk about in a little bit here. Anyways, Josh.
I was working. Ugh.
Yeah. He had totally promised me he'd switched his shift. I don't know if that was clear, Josh. I'm sure that came up in Xbox Live parties. He had promised me he had switched his shift and he was good to go many times. Anyways.
You only gave him like a week's notice, right?
Correct. Anywho, Josh, how are we going to grade these drafts? What different methods will we use to come up to our overall determination of who is good and who is bad?
Well, as you know, I've been learning coding, and so I've run some data analysis through Python and the terminal and all of these fancy coding terms that people use. I'm still learning what those might be, but through 10,000 different iterations of code, I have found the true ranking of our draft.
The truest of true?
Yeah, but then when I woke up, I realized that I didn't know how to code that well, and so I just went off of what Football Guys, Fantasy SP, Fantasy Pros, Jack Walters, and Roto Trade said.
Josh, you seem to have left out the biggest one of them all.
We're not. Oh, I thought we were just doing the normies.
Josh, branded Stephen Colbert. We're going to throw at them the hardest truthiness we know how. You used to be very anti-truthiness. I believe last year you started to come around on the truthiness train. Where do you currently stand on truthiness?
Well, similar to the Carolina Panthers and the Minnesota Vikings football teams, I'm on the every other schedule.
Okay, so you hate truthiness this year.
No, I'm going to like it this year.
Okay. So you're all in on the truthiness. So you'll be delivering your own truth.
You never know. Maybe I'm in the confusionness.
That could be true as well.
Anywho, no, truthiness rocks.
We have delayed quite a bit. Let's hop right into it, Josh. With the first overall pick, we're just going to go team by team. Then we'll give you some overall grades and where you stack up in leaderboards afterwards. Josh, we have Bradley first up. He had the first overall pick. You want to just give us a quick rundown on his team? It's only 14 guys. You could probably do it in 14 seconds.
Well, it was bold of him to take Chris McCaffrey, number 1 overall. I mean, there you go. What do you want me to say?
I literally just asked you to read his team, so I'll do it instead. He's got CMC, David Johnson,
Adam Thielen, Deshaun Watson, Darren Waller, James White, Deontay Johnson, Matt Breida, Sterling Shepard, Mohamed Sanu, Patriots D, Taysom Hill, Dan Bailey, and Lamar Miller. Now, I know we don't have this added in there, but we're going to do team name suggestions on the go. Bradley, I suggest your team name be Johnson & Johnson because you have David and Deontay Johnson, and Johnson & Johnson is a brand of childcare product.
I can say Bradley is one of the few who has already updated his team name, and his current team name is Run CMC, and I thought that wasn't that bad, all things considered.
That's not that bad either. No, I mean, I could stick with that, but if he's looking for something midway through the season to kind of switch up that feng shui, give him a little bit of a competitive edge, Johnson & Johnson is the route I would go.
All right. Well, to be clear, I was 0% prepared to give impromptu team names, so I will probably not do so because but you're creative and I am not. So I'm going to let Josh lead the way on that one. Anyways, into the grades. So from football guys, we get a letter grade. Bradley got an A. It's probably no secret that it's related to the fact that he got Christian McCaffrey. From Fantasy SP, a system that Josh and I do not understand in any way. The scale doesn't make any sense. Every player has a rating, and the scale is not of 100. We don't get it. But Bradley, your Fantasy SP score was 178. And that's not going to be much to you right now, but eventually you'll learn how that stacks up compared to everybody else. From Fantasy Pros, you got a 93, and that is a 100-point scale. Jack, the Jack of all grades, so if you're in the Dynasty League, you should be familiar. You got a C+ from Jack. Jack was not a fan of your team. And then Roto Trade gave you an 86 out of 100, and they projected your record to be 8-5. I'll skip over Walter's for now, and we will read his things after ours, Josh. So, Josh, you put a little something together, and why don't you kind of intro this and what you and I are going to be doing to grade the teams here?
Yeah, so just because obviously everybody has 14 players or, positions, whatever you want to say. I thought maybe it would be fun to kind of go through each team, pick out our favorite guy. So what we're doing is we're picking our stud, steal, steamer, and stinker. So the stud is your favorite pick of the draft. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best player, but kind of your favorite, that's
personal.
Great. I love that guy. I hope he does well.
Personal bias included, for sure.
Yep. Steal is the guy that you feel is going to outplay his ADP. So for those of you who are uninformed, ADP, average draft position, obviously CMC not going to outperform himself. I mean, it's possible that he outscores what they're projecting him. Very possible. But I'm talking about like the guys who are middle of the pack, maybe projected RB 15, wide receiver 20, somewhere in there, and they finish, wide receiver 10 or higher, that sort of thing. Steam means, they're blowing hot steam out their bum. They won't play up to their ADP. So they're guys that have gotten all the offseason hype. They're the ones that everybody's like drafting because they feel like they need to have them. But they're just hot steam there. And then stinker, that's just our least favorite pick on that person's team. Doesn't mean they're bad players. It just means that we didn't like it. Maybe thought that there was other value available. Or we just don't like the person. As Garlic said earlier, our personal opinions do factor in.
Right. So two of them are personal opinion. Oh, so okay. Jesse says, Elena says hi. Texted me. Didn't put that in the live chat. Jesse's detarded. Anyway, so two of them, the stud and the stinker, those are going to be personal bias included. So that's Josh and I's personal opinion. The steal and the steamer, that's going to be more. Josh and I will try and be objective the best we can. Those who we legitimately think will under and overperform based on their ADP. All right, Josh, hit us with your 4 S's for Brad.
Well, first off, with the stud, I had David Johnson, mostly because you'd think that someone who went number 1 overall just a few years back, getting him at the end of the second, I think, that's great value for him. And even if it's not, you have CMC, so you're still sitting pretty there. My steal, Matt Breida, He has a chance of being the starter down in Miami if Jordan Howard does Jordan Howard things. He was a Bear, so let's be honest. My steamer, Adam Thielen, while he is a good wide receiver, I just feel like with Diggs gone, it's going to attract a lot more focus to him. And so he may not be that, top 10 wide receiver he's been in the past. And then my stinker, my least favorite pick, Mohamed Sanu. I thought that maybe you could get somebody else. There's some young guys with high upside. And then that Patriots offense is going to be a big question mark without Tom Brady, I feel.
All right, so moving on to my stud, I have CMC. Just the fact that I'm proud that not saying that Bradley does a lot of stupid shit, but it's certainly possible. Like if I had the 101 pick, I might think about doing something creative or, bold or whatever, but Bradley just locks in the absolute undisputed best player in the draft. We don't know necessarily, it's not a guarantee that he won't break his leg on the first snap of the season, but for Brad to walk away with the number one fantasy player and then have a pretty decent draft behind it, good for you, Brad. CMC is my stud. For the steal, I had Deontay Johnson, so one of the Johnson and Johnson. This guy is easily the number 2 in the Steelers offense. Ben Roethlisberger should be coming back for a full year. When the big bad rapist fuck is around, that offense is electric. So Deontay Johnson should see a fair share of targets and receptions and touchdowns while Juju is getting doubled. The steamer, I picked Sterling Shepard. I personally think that even on the Giants offense, Shepard's the number 3. Darius Slayton was still available. Brad could have gone, or I'm pretty sure he was still available. Brad should have gone Slayton instead if you wanted a Giants receiver. And then my stinker, my personal least favorite, I went with Taysom Hill. I know in ESPNU, Taysom Hill has moved around. He can be a tight end, a flex, whatever. He's too gadgety. You're never really going to play him unless you're in bye week hell. And if you're in bye week hell, why would you not have just a player at that position instead of rolling the dice and hoping Taysom Hill happens to have a weird week where he gets in the end zone or something? So that's my least favorite. I will then move on to... do you have any other comments about... we're going to read Walter's things about... Oh, fuck. We got so many things to read.
Walter's just said potato according to my screen.
But what you wrote is not true, Josh. He didn't actually write potato.
No, I can't read.
So do you have Walter's things up in front of you? Because if not, you should probably get it up in front of you so we can kind of go back and forth and I'm not doing it the whole time.
I guess.
Anyways, Brad, I will read Jack's comments on you first. So Jack, the jack of all grades, he wrote a 15-page document, almost 10,000 words, because apparently Jack's just really fucking bored when he's supposed to be hawking insurance or whatever Jack's day job is. And he has done this now for us like 3-4 times. So Jack, we greatly appreciate everything you do. Jack's comments about Brad's team. Overall, this team has some solid pieces, and while I think CMC, Watson, and Thielen will give you a decent baseline, I just don't see the rest of this squad being able to cover up the lack of depth or weakness at your wide receiver 2/flex positions and your bye week. Having to start Deontay as your wide receiver 2 and White/Breida as a flex each week rather than upside backups makes me worried for your long term, especially if anything happens to one of your top pieces. I'd give this team a C+. So we got some harsh words coming out of Jack there. I shouldn't say harsh, but maybe in Jack's mind realistic. He obviously doesn't like Deontay Johnson.
Coming from Walters, we have solid team up and down. Might be a little thin at wide receiver. Love the running backs, quarterback, and you have a tight end. So that's Walters. Giving him obviously grading. He didn't give a letter grade, but seems he likes your team, Brad. So good job there.
You got the Walter stamp of approval, Moss Squad for life. All right, I will move on. Eric, he had the 2nd overall pick. Quickly running through his team. Pay attention. Saquon Barkley, Kenny Galladay, Allen Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Jarvis Landry, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, Jared Cook, Tevin Coleman, Aaron Rodgers, Saints defense, Matt Prater, Baker Mayfield, and Frank Gore. That is Eric Landvik's team. Josh, how was that
football
team?
Guys.
Go for it.
Oh, is that what you're going to get to?
Yeah, I was going to say, Josh, take it away.
Oh, football guys have you graded as an A-, Eric. Fantasy SP, whose grading system still makes no sense after one person, has you at 206, so a significant jump from Brad. Fantasy Pros has you at a 99 out of 100. Jack, on the other hand, has you at a B-. So if you take it out of a 100-point scale, it's like an 80 to 84, in case you didn't know, 80 to 83. Roto Trade says 90 and has you projected at 8 and 5. Gar, what are your quad S's?
My quad S's, my S's, Would that be so cubed? Would it be quadded? Would it be s quadded? Like, how would you? What would be the correct way to say that exponents of 4? Raised to the 4. Do you know?
I don't know. Maybe we could just call it this.
So it's squared, cubed, and then is that the only two that get cool nicknames? There's not. I don't know what 4 would be. Someone in the chat, let us know. Anyways, my 4 S's for Eric. My stud, my personal favorite pick was Allen Robinson. I think this guy doesn't get enough credit. He's definitely flying under the radar because he's on a terrible Bears team, and either Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles is throwing him the ball. But he was, what was he, top 10 last year? 11 in standard or 11 in PPR, whatever it was. This guy's a stud. He got drafted probably earlier than a lot of people are taking him in normal drafts, but I still think he's a great player for you, Eric. My steal is Frank Gore. We've seen a lot of reports out of camp that Le'Veon Bell is not what he should be, and Frank Gore is an ageless wonder. If you have to put this guy in the flex on a bye week or even put him in your flex just on any week, Frank Gore should get you 5 to 10 points, no problem. Maybe squeak a touchdown there. Who I didn't like was Jared Cook. I think Jared Cook's done, and he's on the Packers, right?
No, Jared Cook hasn't been on the Packers for a couple years. He's
Is he a Saint? Is he a Saint?
He might be back on the. Yeah, he might be a Saint now.
Anyways, I don't know where Jared Cook is, but I don't have faith in the player, so I don't think he'll live up to his ADP. So that's me trying to be objective. He's ranked high as tight ends. I just don't believe in it. And then my stinker, I took the Baker-Rodgers connection. I mean, we only have 5 bench spots. I don't really believe in carrying 2 quarterbacks in this league, and maybe it's going to come back to haunt me at some point when Rivers goes down, but I just don't like the combination. So you're going to be sitting there deciding who to start each week. You'll always end up starting the wrong one. I'm definitely a 1 QB guy, so I don't like taking both of them. Josh, who are you for?
Yeah, my stud was Kenny G. So you and I had the conversation a week ago or something about Kenny G and Allen Robinson, actually. So kind of funny that he has both of them on his team. I mean, they're both solid wideouts. I think Kenny G is kind of one of those guys that flies under the radar just as much as Allen Robinson, which is probably why he got both of them within the same 4 picks. My steal, Deebo Samuel, he's injured right now, and so he might not start week 1, but he was stepping up in San Fran near the end of the season when he was getting some playing time. Steam won't play up to the ADP. It kind of hurt me to type, but Jarvis Landry, I have him in another league, mostly because he was the only wide receiver available with any sort of history that I trusted. But I don't think that he's going to be a 5th round wide receiver better than guys like, and watch me have this going the wrong way, but Terry McLaurin, DJ Chark, all those guys. And so Jarvis, I don't think is going to live up to that. And then my stinker, my least favorite pick, Tevin Coleman, just because that muddied backfield he's currently in. I don't know. I don't know if you could have found anybody with better value. Maybe you're just hanging on to him because they go with a hot hand in San Fran. But hey, not my favorite pick.
All right, moving on to Jack's comments. He says, overall, I like the makeup and strategy of this team. I just feel like I would have liked to see at least one more option at running back with how quick they fall off and how deep wide receiver is this year. I get it's PPR, but think you're in trouble if Saquon gets hurt or Gordon underperforms, when you could have taken Rojo, which is Ronald Jones, Kareem Hunt, Raheem Mostert, or Jordan Howard, for example. Also would have liked to see a different QB than Rodgers, like Josh Allen or Cam Newton with running upside, or even Breeze, since he has better options, will throw more, and would have given you a great quarterback/tight end stack with Cook. Overall, I'd say a B-. So I think we found the home of Cook, Josh. He is still in Nolans.
Did you say D- or B-?
B-.
Okay, I heard D-. Team 2, according to Walters, has a really nice core of wide receivers. Running back number 1 is dominant, but you will find yourself thin at the running back position all year long. I feel your second quarterback that you drafted will be better than your first quarterback you drafted this season. And so he's thinking Baker's going to outperform Rodgers, which, given the fact that Green Bay is moving to kind of that run-first offense, it's possible. Once again, didn't give a draft grade, but as promised after Brad, Eric, your suggested team name is Gordons of the Galaxy, and you use a picture of Guardians of the Galaxy.
You're nailing it, Josh. Okay, so last time I took the very fast team name. I could just do it every time, or do you? Oh,
I got it.
Give it to me, Josh.
All right, third pick, we have Derek. Michael Thomas. George Kittle, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Swift, Stefan Diggs, Tyreek Cohen, Kerryon Johnson, Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady, Bears defense, Viking defense, Justin Jackson, David Fitzgerald, Madrid Minors.
All right, you definitely did a worse job than I did. You should not be an auctioneer. But moving on to the grades, the football guys gave you a letter grade of A-. Fantasy SP gave you a 172 out of who the fuck knows. Fantasy Pros only gave you an 88 out of 100. Jack gave you a B, and we'll talk about more of that in a bit. Roto Trade gave you an 85, and they projected your record to be 7-6. Josh, who are your 4 S's for the man Derek D. Money, as we know him?
Stud, Godwin. To be honest, I have no idea how he went to the third round because I think he was third. I think he got picked before this point in last year's draft, and he was like the wide receiver. Yeah, really?
I don't think so. You keep talking, I'll look it up. You keep talking, I'll look it up.
Okay, so, but yeah, my stud was Chris Godwin. I think that's a great pick in third overall. I mean, your wide receivers are pretty set just after your first 3 picks. Steele, Justin Jackson. He proved himself to be decent last year in positions of need. If Eckler goes down, you have a pretty solid guy there, I feel, in pass catching situations at least. I'm not a big fan of Diggs moving to a run-first offense. I am also just not a fan of him in general. So I should have put him as my stinker as well. But he also took Kerryon Johnson. And as a fellow Kerryon owner in a dynasty league, I know that there is nothing stinkier than Kerryon in the Detroit backfield. Gar, what you got?
All right, so my Google Sheets is loading slow, so I'll give it a sec while I move on to my 4 S's for Derek. So my stud, George Kittle. I had George Kittle last year. He helped carry me all the way to the championship game that I lost. But George Kittle did help carry me all the way there. Shout out to the tight end position, everyone's favorite thing. My steals to outplay their ADP. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald in the 13th round. I mean, I know the guy's old, but even if he's the third option in the air raid offense, he's going to be on the field constantly. He'll probably get 85% of the offensive snaps. He'll get as many snaps as he wants. Maybe that's a different way to put it. I know he's aging a bit, but there's no reason this guy won't be getting fed the ball. The player that won't live up to their ADP, my steamer, I've got DeAndre Swift. The dude's already hurt in camp. Detroit just destroys fucking running backs for some reason that aren't named Theo Riddick, and he was only a good PPR option. So I don't like DeAndre Swift just for that reason. And then moving on to my stinker, my least personal favorite pick is Justin Jackson. And not because I don't love the Chargers, because I had Justin Jackson on probably all of my fantasy squads to start last year because Austin Eckler was the starter and he was the backup. But if you've paid attention to any of the news out of camp, which probably no one else has, it seems like Joshua Kelly has passed Justin Jackson as the number 2 back in Los Angeles. So I think if he would have paid attention at all, he would know Joshua Kelly would have been the better pick there. But those are mine, Josh. I did my thing load while we've been sitting here.
Chris Godwin was a 4th round pick.
Like I said. So yeah, because you took Cup right before him, right? Because I remember you and I were right next to each other, and I wanted Cup, and then I was like, fuck you, and then ended up Godwin was slightly better, so.
Yeah, but even then, he was a top wide receiver for some time. You'd think you'd get taken before guys like Adam Thielen at this point, but.
We are in the state of Minnesota, right?
I guess. Or Kenny Galladay.
Do you have Jack's things up, or am I going to have to read that?
No. Yeah, Jack typed too many big words, so I'm sticking to Walter's because we have the same kind of.
If you go into the show notes folder, you will see it there. Everything that we're supposed to read is highlighted. If you want to open it, I'm not going to say you have to, but it's there. It's available for you. Anyways, Jack on Derek. He says, overall, if you notice, Jack will always start his sentence with overall. Overall, I would say you're loaded at wide receiver and locked at tight end with a decent top 10 option at QB, though I would have taken a backup quarterback just in case instead of a defense or another running back dart throw, because I'm worried for your running backs big time. Think this team probably would have been a B+, but the double D's, double defense, drops you to a B, which is sad because double D's should never be a negative thing. Shout out to Jack, making it sexual. How you doing? Jesus, are you ready with the man bun to read Walter's comments on Derek's team?
Walter's not sure what to think. You drafted the whole Lions running back group. Not sure if you know or not, but the Lions are terrible at rushing the ball. You drafted Rob Gronkowski after you drafted possibly the number 1 tight end in football. I just don't understand why. I love your first 2 wide receiver picks. Your third one is decent, but that is all you have for wide receivers. I probably would have drafted more wideouts rather than drafting a second defense and a second tight end.
And that's all we have to say about Derek. Moving on to...
Whoa!
What I missed?
Derek, your suggested team name
Oh, sorry.
is Kittle Litter. That's a stretch. I'll come back to you,
Not
Derek.
while I'm fucking drinking. Come on, John. You probably weren't paying attention, but I was drinking there, pal. We could have nuked the whole operation with one spit take there. I mean, be a little more careful, a little more courteous next time. Sheesh.
I'm sorry. Another option for you is Jackson, Jacksoff, and then have Mr. Miyagi and Danielson.
I hate everything about what you choose to be. All right, moving on to Brian. Our Mark Rosen, also perennial cursed drafter. This guy with the 4th overall pick and then the corresponding picks in a 14-man stake have Dalvin Cook, Chris Carson, Leonard Fournette, Javante Parker, Jesus Christ, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Jameson Crowder, Mike Williams, Alexander Madison, Sammy Watkins, Josh Allen, Will Lutz, Chris Herndon, and the Seahawks defense. Overall, Brian, you were given a C+ by the football guys. Fantasy SP gave you a 197. Fantasy Pros gave you an 83 out of 100. Jack gave you a B-. RotoTrade gave you an 87, and your projected record is 8-5. Josh, what are your 4 S's for the Bry guy?
Well, my favorite pick for you was Chris Carson. Pete Carroll, after the Super Bowl, I feel has started to learn how to run. But, he's also the lead back there in Seattle. My steal, Scary Terry McLaurin. I feel like he's going to have a great year. He started off the season last year really good. They just announced the starting quarterback, so hopefully he can build a rapport with him. Steamer, Leonard Fournette. Awkward. Since he got cut, I'm going to have to go with Mike Williams. I just feel like he hasn't done much in his few years there in sandy Los Angeles. And so Mike W. is my steamer. My stinker, my least favorite pick, Josh Allen. I don't know why, but he keeps getting hyped, and he plays for a terrible team.
We saw him hurdle Anthony Barr once, Josh, and that's all that fucking matters, okay? Take it back right now.
Sorry, Daddy.
That is better. All right, moving on to my 4 S's. I have got Chris Carson also as my stud. Dude was top 10 last year. Again, kind of a smaller name because Marshawn Lynch came in late and made some splashes in Seattle. But Chris Carson, low-key, one of the best running backs in the league. Definitely a great RB. And he's your RB too because you also took Dalvin Cook in the first. My steal, I gave him Alexander Madison. A bit of homerism in here, even if this is supposed to be my objective one. If you believe the narrative that Dalvin will always be hurt, then Madison will obviously way outperform his ADP as it points to projections or whatever else. So Madison's going to be a stud if Dalvin gets hurt, and even if he doesn't, Madison can be seen in the screen game and get some goal line touches, all that. My steamer, I also had Mike Williams. This dude could succeed more in a Phillip Rivers offense. Tyrod is just not the same quarterback. He's more likely to throw it to Keenan Allen, so I'm steaming Mike Williams. And then my stinker, this fucking guy, but I mean, Brian allegedly knows things about fantasy and gambling, and he probably has more stats than we'll ever imagine. But this guy took two New York Jets on his team, Jameson Crowder and Chris Herndon. And I just have to ask, did this guy have a stroke? Is he seriously ill? Why would he take 2 Jets to be on his fantasy team?
I mean, if you want 2 Jets, those are probably the 2 I'd take. I mean, Jameson Crowder is probably going to be one of their top wide receivers. Chris Herndon is guaranteed to get at least a catch this season.
What does a top wide receiver in New Jersey mean? 1 target for 1 touchdown in the fucking year? Like, what's going to Are they going to play Luke Falk again? You saw what a dumpster fire that team was last year.
Yeah. I mean, it's a wide receiver 1, Garlic.
On a terrible team, Josh.
Exactly. Wide receiver 1.
Okay. I will move on to Jack's thing because Josh doesn't have it. Brian, Jack was short and sweet with you. He said, overall, I probably would have given this team a B+ before the Fournette news, but that really hurts. So you drop down to a B-. pending where he lands. Definitely think of the first 4 teams so far, though. Wait, Jesus Christ, Jack. Definitely think of the first 4 teams so far, though. You definitely drafted the best as far as position and strategy, so I give you credit there. So you got a B- because of Fournette. I struggle to read some of Jack's sentences sometimes, but that's what Jack thought about you. Josh, give us Walters and then move on to B.
To what?
I'm after Walters, yeah. Or I'm after
Walters says
Brian.
Solid team from top to bottom. You made good choices when it came to your picks, minus Leonard Fournette. I mean, I thought it was a good choice. It was unfortunate. The only hope for Leonard Fournette is that he can land on a team where he gets majority of the reps, but that doesn't seem likely. The wide receivers he drafted are at the top of the depth chart for their teams, but for fantasy purposes, they're wide receiver 2s. Hopefully, Scary Terry and Devontae Parker can step up to provide some real power at your wide receiver positions. I think that those 2 guys definitely have that opportunity, as well as Christian Kirk, since Hopkins will be taking a lot of the coverage there. Brian, your suggested team name in Garlic. Hold on to your butts for this. Let's Cook. That's 2 players. And then you can have a picture of Walter White. Let's Cook, Brian. Moving on to Gar. You drafted Zeke, Chubb, Woods, Hilton, Ingram. I suppose I should read full names. Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, Robert Woods, T.Y. Hilton, and Mark Ingram, Julian Edelman, Antonio Gibson, C.D. Lamb, Hayden Hurst, Marlon Mack, Alan Lazard, Chiefs defense, Philip Rivers, Michael Badgley.
Okay, I will read my grades. The fantasy football the fantasy football guys gave me a B-. Fantasy SP gave me a 191. The fantasy pros gave me a 97. Jack gave me an A-. RotoTrade gave me an 87, and my projected record is 8-5. Josh, do you notice how no one in our league is projected to go negative per RotoTrade? Everyone's going to have a winning season. Isn't that convenient?
That was going to be one of my takes on them.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that maybe later. Josh, hit us with your 4 S's.
I really like the Chubb pick. Chubb, I think after you took him, I had said that that's the guy that I was debating on. So for him to last 5 more picks after me taking the player I took in the second round, I love Nick Chubb, especially in that offense. If Kareem Hunt is the kind of the yang to his yin. Steele, I think Marlon Mack, people are overlooking the fact that he's at over 1,000 yards every year that he's been in the league, except for the one that I think he came in on. And he's still technically their starter, and you get him in the 10th. I think that's a steal. Your steamer, Julian Edelman. I think that just because if Brady was still there, I'd say that's a great pick. But without Brady, I'm looking at some of the other wide receivers. You could have, depending on which way the board goes.
Are you okay, Josh?
You could have taken someone like Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks probably not, but Deontay Johnson or Christian Kirk I probably would have taken over Julian Edelman. But that's just me. So he is the steamer. Your stinker, my least favorite pick, I put Antonio Gibson, mostly because at that point you already had Chubb, Elliott, and Ingram. Granted, going for depth, this is more of a dart throw in my eyes. I just don't trust Washington running backs. And so that's why he's my stinker, not because he's bad.
Not just because you have a bad taste in your mouth after the whole Darius Juice thing, is it?
Shh.
The Geist, what he could have been, what Josh wanted him to be. Anyways, since I did give myself my own 4 S's to pat myself on the back and to rip myself a little bit, my stud, I'm taking Zeke. I had Zeke last year, and he was projected to not start the season. So I got him at like 8 or 7 or whatever I drafted last year. And this year, a couple of big brains thought they were outsmarting everyone. Zeke was the consensus 3 on just about every single draft board, and I got Zeke at 5. So I thought, there's no way I can't love Zeke. I mean, I was debating if Dalvin Cook was gone, because I was thinking I was getting Cook or Kamara. If Cook was gone by 5, I was going to take CEH and roll the dice on the rookie with super huge upside. But I got Zeke at 5 instead. My steal, I think it's Ingram. I don't know why so many people were sleeping on Ingram. I got him in the 5th round. The dude's the starting running back. I understand they drafted a rookie behind him, but that offense is potent. And if Mark Ingram is my 3rd running back in the flex, I mean, some other people probably didn't have their 1st or at least their 2nd running back, and I got him as my 3rd, my flex. So I think that's a steal. He'll definitely outperform his ADP. My steamer, I agreed with the Edelman take. I just drafted a guy who was number 1 on the depth chart, but of a good team, so it's not like a Jets or a Dolphins receiver. I took Edelman. He's on a good team. I'm sure Josh McDaniels will find a way to get Cam to get Edelman the ball. And then my stinker, I also put Gibson. So Josh, we actually agreed on a couple things here. I actually had dropped Gibson to pick up Chris Thompson. And then I looked back and I was like, holy shit, I got Antonio Gibson in the 7th round. And then I guess no one else put a waiver claim in for Gibson. So I actually picked Gibson back up. And I dropped Chris Thompson again because I think I overreacted a little bit to the Fournette news. So those are my 4 S's. Moving on to what Jack thought about my team. Overall, I really, really like this team's starting squad, and with some high upside bench picks, I think it's balanced real well. Great 1-2-3 punch at running back and decent wide receiver 1 through 3 as well as tight end. Depending on if you play the QB situation right, I could see this team making the playoffs easily. A- and best balanced team so far. What Walters have to say about me, Josh? Stroke me or tear me down.
You stink. No, just kidding. He said, your team has the deepest, most dangerous running backs of any other team in the league. Congrats. Your first wide receiver off the board is nice, safe pick who has a lot of volume, although you're really hoping Phillip Rivers can bring back that T.Y. Hilton of yesteryear, and I'm not sure if Cam Newton will provide the same volume for Julian Edelman that Tom Brady did. So, yeah, Walter's comments there. Garlic, your suggested team name
Hit me.
is Wanna CD nuts.
I mean, I was really thinking about something with like Chubby and Johnson and Woods in there. I don't have a Johnson, but I was thinking about something with Chubby and Woods in there, but I was like, oh, that's overdone. So if anyone doesn't know, my team name is actually Little Rivers Band. And if you don't get that reference, if you've ever seen the other guys, Will Ferrell's character is a huge fan of the Little River Band. And so my picture is a picture of Will Ferrell and the other guys. It's not that creative, but at the same time, I don't think you're going to see anyone else with that fantasy name this year. So that's why I liked it, and Rivers will probably be in my team all year. Anyways, we will move on to the Jim Jam 93. She took Alvin Kamara, Juju Smith-Schuster, Le'Veon Bell, DK Metcalf, DJ Chark, Tyler Higbee, Naeem Hines, Ben Ryan, AJ Dillon, Bills defense, N'Keal Harry, Kyle Fairbairn, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Laviska Shenault, who should be Van Jefferson. In fact, I might use my commish parts to go switch that out. Who knows? But anyways, Fantasy Guys gave you an A-, Jamie/Laura. Fantasy SP gave you a 151, which, again, a scale we don't understand, but it does appear to be the lowest. Fantasy Pros gave you an 85 out of 100. Jack gave you an A-. Roto Trade gave you an 85, and your projected record is 7-6. Josh, what are your Jamie/Laura's 4 S's?
I had her stud as Metcalf. That's another player that I had kind of been hovering over. I guess we're not hovering over picks, but when I was looking through the thing, that's like, do I want to take him or do I want to actually take somebody else? And so, I think that's going to be her stud. Steal, I think that Chark in the round after Metcalf was a steal. I feel like either of those two guys could have been taken. I feel like next year, both of those guys are going to be taken in the 3rd round. At the latest. Steam, Juju, not sure why, but I've just never been, I'm not big on Juju. I wasn't big on him last year. He clearly didn't live up to his top 10 pick, his top 10 ADP from last year. Wow. My brain exploded. And so he dropped down to the middle end of the 2nd round in our league. I still don't think that he's going to live up to that. And then the stinker is Bell. I mean, he's not doing anything in practice. Frank Gore was described as the best running back. And I just don't like him.
That's fair. Moving on to my 4 S's. Just like Josh's stud, my stud is also DK Metcalf. In one of the leagues Josh and I are both in, I took him as a rookie last year. Everyone faded me. Metcalf turned out to be a stud of a receiver. Yes, Tyler Lockett's still there, but Russell Wilson and that Seahawks offense are always doing touchdown to check down. Like a lot of teams will go what's underneath and then what's above, but these guys are always looking what's above to what's underneath. If DK Metcalf is running deep, at least 50% of the time, that dude is going to get balls and beat the coverage, or someone's going to slip, and he's going to get lots of yards and probably breakaway touchdowns. So Metcalf, there's no reason he's not an absolute stud. For steal, even though it's earlier than I would like to take a quarterback, Matt Ryan in the 8th isn't terrible. I think this is poised to be Matty's Ice good year. He's an every other kind of guy, but Matty Ice racks up yards. And Jamie got carried by Pat Mahomes last year. Matty Ice is another great quarterback to carry Jamie this year. She had the number 1 overall record. She'll probably do it again. Matty Ice will definitely outperform his ADP. Tyler Higbee is my steamer. I just don't like it. I don't know. I don't believe in him as a tight end, and his ADP is higher than I would draft him at. So that's my stinker, or my steamer, excuse me. My stinker, just like Josh's, Le'Veon Bell. I don't dislike the guy personally. I thought when he held out for his contract, even though a lot of people faded him for that, I thought it was a good move for him personally. Even if he ended up getting less money, he stuck up for himself. Good for you, Bell. But Adam Gase ruins everything that is good. Adam Gase ruins everything that could ever be good. So for that reason, I don't like Bell. And what was it? Even the third round, Le'Veon Bell probably could have gone in the second round easily and been someone's RB1. But I don't like Le'Veon Bell. But Jamie, I look forward to your team name being LeVictory Bell. I will move on to Jack's grades. Jamie, Jack had this to say about you. Overall, I ended up really liking this team, so assuming Kamara signs, it should have the making... Jesus, I can't read, Josh. I'm going to start over. Overall, I ended up really liking this team, so assuming Kamara signs, it should have the makings of a playoff team. And if Juju and Bell return to what they were, I think you've got the makings of a top contender. A- for starters, but depth at RB worries me a little. What did Walters have to say about Jamie? Josh?
What to say about this team? Really nothing. Nothing. Oh, gosh. Walters, the format in which you send this email blows. Nothing really stands out. All your players seem to be safe with decent floors. Most likely finish middle to lower half of the pack. So he disagrees on quite a bit. And as per tradition over the last 5 teams, Jamie, I know Garlic just tossed out LeVictory Bell as your team, and that's a good one. But if you want to do something to kind of set yourself apart, show that you love your nation, go ahead and make Kamara great again. Thumbs down. All right.
Thumbs down. Boo.
Make Kamara great. Make America great again. T/Kyle/troll. I don't know. Was he trolling? I couldn't tell.
I definitely vented my frustrations to Kyle on draft day. I will admit, T said he was in an uncontrollable situation with work, so I gave it to him. But in fairness to T and Kyle probably hasn't even played or thought about fantasy football in 4 to 5 years, I think he said. So Kyle could be trolling. He could also just be operating on the best knowledge he had at the time, which is probably not much because he hadn't thought about it until that day when I texted Kyle, hey, do you want to come draft this team? So Maybe a little bit of troll, maybe a little bit of just honest ignorance.
Sounds good. But anyways, his team is Derrick Henry, Mike Evans, Zach Ertz, David Montgomery, Will Fuller, Golden Tate, Joe Burrow, LaShawn McCoy, Alston Hooper, Matt Stafford, Broncos defense, Matt Gay, Josh Kelly, and Bengals E.
Should just give their grades and stuff too.
Football guys gave him a C. Fantasy SP 174. Fantasy Pros 70. Jack C-. RotoTrade has T at 84 with a 7-6 record. Now, everybody, remember that number, 84. Gar, what are yours?
Just gonna leave with my.
That's the 4 S's. That's what that sound makes.
What a great segue. Okay, my first T stud. I'm not even trying to fade him or Kyle, but I put NA for stud. I don't have a favorite pick on this team. I don't like Henry this year, at least not where he's supposed to be. I don't like Mike Evans. Ertz was too early for me. Montgomery, I don't like at 4. Will Fuller, I don't like at 5. Golden Tate's on the Giants. Joe Burrow's way too early. Shady McCoy might not even see the field. Austin Hooper's a stooge, and he's not going to have the same success in Cleveland that he did. Matty Stafford might be my favorite pick, but still, that's probably early in the 10th. The Broncos defense might be the best pick, but it's still not my favorite. Matt Gay, and then Joshua Kelly. I know I just listed his team again, but I just pointing out the fact that I have no favorite pick on this team. The steal, though, I did put Joshua Kelly. Kyle asked me kind of who I would draft here as far as running back goes, and I just shouted out Joshua Kelly, knowing that he has surpassed Justin Jackson's the number 2 for the Chargers. For the steamer, I put Golden Tate. Fuck the Giants. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then my stinker, Shady McCoy, back to my previous points. The dude was just brought in. It seems like to be a locker room presence. Maybe if someone goes down, Shady gets on the field. But otherwise, McCoy's going to be riding T's and the Buccaneers bench all year. Josh, what are your for T?
Stud, I put Hooper. Not necessarily because, He's gonna do well for you, but your team is so trash that I feel like Hooper's gonna be in your flex over guys like Golden Tate. Steele, I had Joshua Kelly as well. I also knew the news that he was kind of moving towards surpassing Justin Jackson. From what I understand, Justin Jackson might still get a lot of the pass work though, and so he'll be kind of a change of pace back. Steamer, Derrick Henry. I do not see Derrick Henry as a top 10 player. I know he's a great running back. But how many years has he been in the league now? 4 or 5? Is this his 5th year?
I'm not sure. And
like he was waiver wire player a couple years ago. They changed the offense around. We've learned that high powered offenses get figured out all the time. So they're not just going to give him the ball and tell him to run. Like they did. And from what I remember, only half the season last year was a dominant performance for him. Granted, he is still your best running back. Stinker, least favorite pick, Mike Evans. I've had Mike Evans in the past, and yes, it's a PPR. Yes, he's a decent talent, but I feel like his numbers are skewed by weeks where he has 150,000 points and weeks where he has negative. So I feel like he gets inflated weeks that kind of affect his ADP.
By the way, Josh, before I go into Jack's thoughts about T, some breaking news that came out an hour ago that we both obviously missed, otherwise we would have mentioned it. The Patriots released Mohamed Sanu.
So are you saying that my stinker pick for Brad's team was pretty spot on?
That's not terrible after all. I mean, I was a Sanu believer. Not that I thought he'd be a dominant receiver, but that Billy B, a man who never gives up anything for anyone, traded a second-round pick to the Falcons to get Sanu. I was like, that's more than Billy B is invested in his starting quarterback. So I just thought for sure he'd be around, but I guess Billy B is one to admit his own mistake and cut him loose. But yeah, I got that update at 5:01, and I just completely missed it until now. Tough
We're going to
titties.
find out in like 24 hours that Mohamed Sanu is leading New England's largest drug trafficking trade in the world.
with Peter Griffin as his number 2.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Jack's thoughts about T's team, and I have to scroll a little bit because I was totally ready. T, you got 2 sentences from Jack. Overall, I think this draft started out well, but kind of got sketchy in round 3 or 4, then went off the rails in rounds 5 on. I'd give this team a C- at best, and don't see you being in the top half. Tough, T. Tough, dude.
Walters went on to say that your first 3 picks are really great picks. It's tier 1 players. I like your tight end pick and the Matt Stafford pick. I don't understand why you would draft a dumpster fire of a defense in Cincy after you already drafted Denver. And T, your suggested team name is I Give Up. Burrow your head in the sand. There you go.
T, he said, I've been texting a little bit here while you've been talking, and T said he was watching along. T, we love you. I appreciate you not requesting a refund of your $50 after you couldn't draft your team. I don't know how the group would have auto-drafted for you. I don't know if we would have been fair or not, but this is Kyle's team. Or Kyle drafted this team for you. You're paying for it. I appreciate you.
Or your team name could be This Hurts.
I will say I would pay attention to the waiver wire for the first couple weeks. Maybe even don't start all your studs. Maybe try and get the first couple waiver wire, big knockers, because surely someone will go down week 1 with an injury. So just pay attention to the waivers, T. It's not impossible for you to turn this thing around. Anywho, let's move on to the lovely Mrs. Bunker to Josh's Mr. Bunker,
Hey.
Nikita. In the first round, she got Miles Sanders, Patrick, and then, I'm not getting to this. Her team is Miles Sanders, Patrick Mahomes, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Ronald Jones, Marvin Jones, 2 Jones in a row, holy shit. Phillip Lindsay, TJ Hawkinson, Curtis Samuel, Ravens defense, Drew Brees, Chase Edmonds, Randall Cobb, and Zane Gonzalez. The football guys gave you a B, Nikita. You got a 176 out of Fantasy SP for whatever that's worth. You got an 84 out of Fantasy Pros. You got a B from Jack. You got an 86 from Roto Trade, and your projected record is 8-5, though. I will again note, everyone's projected record is 8-5 and 7 or 6, so those numbers are pretty much meaningless for everyone. But Nikita, the consensus across the board has you at a solid B. Your range is 84 to 86 from any of the grades that actually make sense. So, solid B draft. Josh, give us your S's for your lovely wife.
So I had Mahomes, as the stud. I mean, he's, in my opinion, the number one fantasy quarterback, even after Lamar's year last year. But I do think that DJ Moore or Cortland Sutton are very close behind him as far as stud picks for me. Steele, Ronald Jones. I've been reading that a lot of positive things from him coming out of camp. So I do think that Rojo has a chance of being a steal this draft. Steamer, Philip Lindsay. I just don't think that I had him last year in the league. Granted, this is PPR, but they brought in Melvin Gordon. So, if he does go back to that change of pace role and get those touches that he can utilize, I could be eating my own words here, but at this point in time, I just don't think he'll live up to it. Stinker, my least favorite pick, Drew Brees. You already had Patrick Mahomes, 5 benches, backup quarterback, not a big fan. I've told you that from the get-go. I'm not a big fan of backup quarterbacks or tight ends, so love you.
Wow, what a sweetheart. All right, Nikita, my stud, my favorite pick that you took in this draft is Cortland Sutton. The dude is the number one in the Broncos offense, was a stud last year, was a stud the year before. There's no reason Sutton won't be a stud again. Definitely see him putting up wide receiver 1 numbers this year, so that means he's a top 12 for us. I guess it would be top 14 technically, but he will definitely be a top tier receiver. My steal for you is Randall Cobb. It looks like you got him in the 13th round. Will Fuller gets hurt a lot. Brandon Cooks is a stooge. Randall Cobb had like 40 or 80 targets or whatever it had last year. He had a lot of targets. So this guy gets open. This guy's on the field. He's a known commodity. Deshaun Watson's going to have to throw the ball somewhere. I think Randall Cobb is a very sneaky steal, and I think if you hold on to him for a couple of weeks, that will definitely pay off. And if not, you should drop him because I might pick him up instead of CeeDee Lamb. Moving on to my steamer for you, Nikita. I don't like Curtis Samuel. I'm kind of fading the Panthers offense a little bit this year, and even if I love the offense, I think guys like Ian Thomas, CMC, or DJ Moore are likely to see a lot more of the workload. So I am fading Curtis Samuel, and he will not perform to or above his ADP. My stinker, just like Josh, I had Breeze. You already had a quarterback. You didn't need Drew Brees as your second. He's probably going to miss some time. My stinker. Moving on to Jack's thoughts on Nikita's team. Overall, I really like this team and think you did a decent job with your starting core, even with taking a QB early. Your flex will be so-so between Marvin Jones and Philip Lindsay each week, but I like your running back 1 and 2, your wide receiver 1 and 2, your tight end, and your quarterback gives you a chance to win a matchup each week just on his own. Your depth concerns me as I don't think you'll be able to cover if one of your top guys goes down, but overall this feels like a fringe playoff team at least, solid B with upside. What did Walters have to say about your wife, Josh, even though he didn't know it was your wife?
Your team is the up-and-comers. I love the upside potential of your team. I see playoffs in your future. That's all he said. He got pretty lazy. And so... let's see here. I had one. Oh yeah. So my wife loves Suddenly Salad, and I know this is a steal off of one of Ben's team names last year. And I say one of them because he has a handful throughout the season. But Nikita, I think your team name should be Suttonly Salad.
Jesus. It's not the worst team name I've ever heard. I gotta give you that one.
Moving on to Hambone or Hammer.
The reigning champ.
Reigning champ, and he has Austin Eckler. Wasn't going to get screwed by Lamar Jackson because he took him in the second. Then Cooper Kupp, James Conner, Tyler Boyd, Raheem Mostert, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Reagor, Noah Fant, 49ers D, Preston Williams, Adrian Peterson, Robbie Gould, and Irv Smith. Football Guys gave him a B+. Fantasy SP with their ratings of unknown origin gave him a 178. Fantasy Pros a 91. Jack A-. Roto Trade 87. Good for, ladies and gentlemen, 8 and 5. Gar, what were your...
So back to Josh's comment earlier, just for a second, because I was going to say this with T's team, but I didn't. Starting a tight end in your flex is not a bad idea. Hammer having 2 good tight ends last year, playing a tight end in the flex, led him to the eventual championship reign. So, T... no big deal putting a tight end in your flex. Anyways, moving on to my S's for Hammer. My stud, I picked Ruggs. Tyrell Williams was already hurt. We knew that before the draft. He has now been put on IR, so there's no reason Ruggs shouldn't dominate. Him and Carr should be on the same page. I know Gruden loves to, run the rock and, control the clock with Josh Jacobs. But if you're ever going deep, Ruggs is your guy. He was the first wide receiver off the board in the draft. They believe in him. He should be a stud. Moving on to my steal, I think James Conner. Assuming he's healthy, but this dude should definitely be a top running back this year, assuming he plays all 16 games. Absolutely no reason he shouldn't. He will outperform his ADP for sure. My steamer is Cooper Kupp. The news out of camp has been Kupp hasn't been the hottest, and even last year he got faded heavily. His fantasy is propped up by scoring a touchdown every week, which is great if you can count on Kupp to score you 16 touchdowns in a year, one a week. That's a guy you would have in your starting lineup every week. I see regression coming there, negative regression, so I think Cooper Kupp is being faded and will not perform up to his ADP. Lastly, my stinker, I did Preston Williams, or whatever his name is. I'm fading bad offenses this year, whether it's Fitzmagic or Tua throwing you the ball. I don't think the Dolphins will see a lot of great things this year, though I do like the organization's outlook further down the road. Josh, what are your for the ham bone?
Stud, I had Boyd. I've been a Boyd believer since the beginning.
Never say that again, please.
Hint at your team name suggestion. Steele, Fant. I would have him ranked higher than a lot of these players. He's coming off of a decent finish to the season last year. Tight ends take a little bit longer to develop, so I do think that he's going to outplay that ADP. Steamer, I don't think Lamar is going to live up to the hype from last year. I already said Patrick Mahomes was my number one quarterback. Granted, Lamar does have the opportunity to run for points, more so than Mahomes, but I don't think that he is worthy of an early second. Stinker, Jalen Reagor, or whatever you want to say, not just because he's on the IR, but his first name is Jalen, and Jalen is a short little stooge.
I will say that I keep going off context just a bit, but while we've been talking, T texted me, "Welcome to the shit abyss." So, T, if that's not your team name, I'll be disappointed now. It doesn't list a player's name in there, but welcome to the shit abyss, or just shit abyss is funny. And if any of you are in the daily fantasy thing for the podcast play along challenge, T's username is shit abyss, so you'll see him on the leaderboard there. He did win the locks and upsets last year. Anyways, moving on to Jack's thoughts about Hammer, the reigning champions team. Jack says, overall, looking at the starting lineup of Lamar, Eckler, Connor, Kupp, Boyd, Mostert, and Fant, I ended up liking this team a lot more than I thought I would when you drafted a QB early. Feels like you made the right pick, or at least close to it, value-wise, at each of your first 7 to 8 rounds. There's some question marks at each. Does Lamar regress, get hurt? Can Eckler handle the workload? Will Connor be healthy? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. But if they all work out or perform like they should, this team is definitely very scary looking and should bare minimum be a top half squad. A- due to the starting lineup picks, but also choosing good options at depth. Jack got lengthy on that champ. They're just stroking them long and hard. What did Walters have to say about our reigning champ, Josh?
Again, another team that doesn't really pop. Other than Lamar Jackson, Team 9 doesn't really have a player who's clear-cut tier 1 at its position. Team 9 is hoping that rookie wide receivers will go crazy this year to help elevate them into the playoffs. I don't see it happening, though. And Hammer, your suggested team name is Cup My Balls.
I like it. All right, Josh, we are moving on to your squad. You took, of course, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Todd Gurley, Calvin Ridley, Kareem Hunt, J.K. Dobbins, Jordan Howard, Hunter Henry, Keyshawn Vaughn, Brandon Ayuk, Anthony Miller, Cam Newton, Young Hoku, and the Chargers defense. Football Guys gave you an A. Fantasy SP gave you a 168. Fantasy Pros gave you a perfect 100 out of 100. Jack gave you an A. Roto Trade only gave you an 83. What's the deal? And a 7-6 projected record. Josh, let's hear your 4 S's on your own squad.
I'm pretty happy with my J.K. Dobbins pick, actually. I feel like him and Mark Ingram are going to, not necessarily split, but I think that J.K. is going to get more carries than Gus Edwards did last year. Mark Ingram's still the number 1 there, but for having J.K. as a bench running back at this point. I do like that. My steal, Anthony Miller. I was shocked that he was still available in the 11th round when I took him. He's their wide receiver too. He had a great season last year, despite getting hurt at some point. And I believe last year was his rookie year, wasn't it?
It's either his rookie year or not, but yeah.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. My steamer won't play up to the ADP. I had Hunter Henry. I took him because I could feel that run of tight ends coming, and I just refused to get stuck with someone like Chris Herndon or Irv Smith. Actually, Irv Smith wouldn't have been a bad one. But stinker, my least favorite pick, Jordan Howard. Probably could have been an easy pick there for you if you would have checked the waivers. I dropped him already. So bye, Jordan.
Brian got him.
Yeah.
If you care.
Brian needed him. I got Reichwell, so.
On probably the team that's going to go 0-16. But yeah, you got their starting running back, Josh. Good job. Anyways, moving on to my 4 S's for Josh's squad. My stud, I picked Kareem Hunt because all the reports are this dude's going to be dominant. If Stefanski is anything like we saw last year, there's going to be plenty of screen game. Not that Chubb isn't capable. Chubb is completely capable of being successful in a screen game, but it also seems like something that Hunt would succeed in. He should be in on passing downs as well. So I think Kareem Hunt has a great chance to be a huge PPR stud this year. My steal, I also gave you Anthony Miller. I believe I was telling Laura to draft him at whatever round it was, and then she took someone else with a cooler name. But yes, Anthony Miller didn't have a great year, but he did come on hot late. So that's where the buzz and the hype is. Anthony Miller had a good finish of the season, and so going in, you think he would just continue to progress that success. Moving on to your steamer, Josh, I am fading Gurley this year hard. I'm not going to say that Gurley in the 3rd round isn't bad, especially that's the 30-somethingth pick, so that's not bad. It is your RB1, though, but I'm still fading Gurley. We've already seen reports out of camp that he's limping and he still has a knee brace. This dude is a shell of his former self, and it's sad to see. I love the player. He got me a dynasty championship, but I think Gurley's prime is behind him hard. Moving on to your stinker, I don't like Keyshawn Vaughn. If you're going to hold him for a long time, he could work out for sure. But the reports out of camp are that he isn't going to contribute early except on maybe kick returns, and we don't do kick return yards in this league, so you can hold him. You can hold him and gamble, but you might be missing another depth piece you could have instead. So I think Keyshawn is your stinker. And Josh, so you did mention, just before I move on to Jack's thing, you did mention that you were just sniping all my my handcuffs in the draft. Was that conscious, or were you just doing that because you actually love the players?
It was not a conscious decision. I love Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was one of those guys that I had marked on my board to take at some point. And so I looked at his ADP ahead of the time, and I was going to take him one round before that because, like I said, I believe after I took him, even though he is the backup to Chubb, he actually outscored him in fantasy points when he was in the lineup. So he was good. I do like J.K. Dobbins. Been reading nothing but positive reports out of camp from there. And I believe those are the only 2 that I got. So, but it was just in back-to-back rounds when I made that comment. So.
Roger that, dog. Okay, moving on to Jack's thoughts on Josh's squad. We are going to release this Word document. I haven't mentioned that yet. Jack, again, put over 9,000 words down, and it'll be more once I put a little formatting on there. But Jack put a nice little joke in here for Josh, because Josh, apparently you are very predictable to the Coon Rapids sphere of people. Both Walters and Jack were able to sniff out your squad instantly. So I don't know if that says good or bad things about you, or doesn't say anything other than being interesting, but there's a funny little joke in there if anyone wants to go read it. Anywho, Jack's thoughts on Josh's squad. Overall, while there are, of course, some question marks depending on how RB depth and QB1 turn out, this team looks scary as hell to me, and I would be more than happy with this team in even a 10 or a 12-man league. Of the first 10, this is currently my pick for number 1 team, so I think top 4 is definitely likely, and if Cam or 2 of your running backs work out, this could be a championship contender. You're definitely not going 5-8, solid A for sure. Look at you, Josh. What did Walters have to say?
That's the first A I've ever gotten. Walter said, I believe this is Josh's team. His love for Devonta Adams, Tyreek Hill, and Todd Gurley have been shown within the first 3 picks of the draft. The only thing missing is a Josh Gordon pick, which I almost did. This team is deep at running back and wide receiver and should have an easy time making it into the playoffs. Funny thing, the reason they know about this, Gar, they knew it was my team, is because the draft itself kind of looked exactly like last season in the Victoria's Secret. My first round, I took Devontae. The second round, I took Tyreek. And then after that, I just kind of filled in the pieces. But I do have a very unique strategy in which I draft winners. So,
oh, really? Did you win the Victoria's Secret League last year?
I won second place.
Were you in the championship game for real? I forget.
I was. Yep.
Oh, but you didn't win, huh?
No, I did. I won second place, just like I won 8th place in this league.
Josh, if you ain't first, you're last, pal.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, my suggested team name is... I'm not going to ruin the surprise. Moving on to Jeremy, he took, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, CEH, Travis Kelce, Jonathan Taylor, Keenan Allen, Cam Akers, Russell Wilson, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Hardman, Deshaun Jackson, Eric Ebron, Buccaneers D, Paris Campbell, Jake Elliott, and Ryan Tannehill. Football guys have him at a B-, fantasy SP, whatever their worth is, has him at 166, fantasy pros, 82, Jack, C+, Roto Trade 8-3, still, or 83, finishing at 7-6. Gar, what are your
So for you, Jared Bear, rookie in the league, I gave you Keenan Allen as a stud. If you've been watching Hard Knocks, which apparently no one else but me is, Keenan Allen is still the stud he's always been. I love the Chargers. Keenan Allen can catch anything that's within a 5-mile radius of him. Tyrod Taylor is not known for having a huge arm. I'm not saying he's not capable of moving the ball, but Keenan Allen is definitely known more as a crisp route runner who gets the ball in open space versus deep bombs 50-50 down the field. There's no reason Keenan Allen can't get a lot of targets this year. Anthony Lynn said himself their whole offensive scheme is to feed Keenan Allen the ball. My steal is Emmanuel Sanders. I don't know why he kind of fell as far as he did. I'm trying to look back. You got him in the 7th round. Dude was an absolute stud last year. I know Michael Thomas has to get fed on the Saints offense, but Emmanuel Sanders is a stud himself. And who's going to steal catches from the rest of the offense that isn't Michael Thomas? Jared Cook? Other people you can't even name? Probably not. I'm thinking Emmanuel Sanders will definitely outperform his ADP. My steamer, I don't like Jonathan Taylor. I don't like Jonathan Taylor this year. He's certainly the future of that Colts offense, but Marlon Mack is still there. There's no reason why they won't run Marlon Mack into the ground, and there's no reason why Marlon Mack won't want to run himself into the ground. This is his last year of his rookie contract. He wants to put great tape out there so he can get his second payday that is so coveted in the NFL. So Marlon Mack, I still think is going to have a great year, thus eating into Taylor, and he will not overperform his ADP, which is like the 3rd or 4th round at this point. It's getting ridiculous. And my stinker, Mecole Hardman. It looks like you were trying too hard to get every Chief you could. Mecole Hardman is, I don't know. He's just not the guy. And it's a personal bias, and maybe in a couple years he's great, but I don't like him this year. Josh, give us your Jer Bear for
stud. I put Jonathan Taylor, so contrary to your steamer.
We can't disagree.
But stud is that opinion-based one, and that's just because I feel like Indy might try and change things up, move some things around, get some pieces moving for Philip Rivers, and so he may be in more of a timeshare with Marlon Mack. My steal, Cam Akers, with Gurley gone, there's a lot of open carries there in LA. So they took a running back for a reason. I would assume that it would be to give him the ball. Steamer won't play up to the ADP. Keenan Allen, even though he's a 4th round pick here, new offense without Rivers, has to build that rapport. Guard, you may be watching Hard Knocks, but even I can make catches look fun in practice. And then stinker, my least favorite pick, Eric Ebron. You already had Travis Kelce. You don't need a backup tight end, especially Eric Brickhands Ebron.
What if he plays him in the flex? Eric Ebron's always great his first year on a new team. We saw him light it up in Indy. You had him on your fantasy team at one point.
That's true, which is why I know better than anyone not to have him on my fantasy team.
Okay, Jared Bear, rookie in the league. We are moving on to your thoughts. Well, we're moving on to Jack's thoughts on your team. Overall, this team has solid QB, tight end, and wide receiver. Didn't put any plurals on there, so fuck you, Jack. So your base should be good. But there are just too many question marks at running back with little to no backup options should one get hurt or not work out. I envision you getting off to a rough start as I don't see JT or Akers getting even 10 touches for the first few weeks. I think that's a bad take. And even if they do end up being the number ones on their team by midseason, this might be too much for you to come back from. With all that combined, with the strange picks in the late rounds, I'd give this team a C+, only for the upside of JT and Akers. As if they don't do what they want, this team could easily turn into a bottom 3 team, unfortunately. And that is interesting. I believe Walters will comment on it here in a sec, Josh, but Jared Bear, as we've stated a couple times now, has the three rookie running backs.
Yeah, holy rookie running backs, Batman. Team 11 has some big balls by drafting a rookie running back core. Is his plan going to bring him to the promised land or have him come crashing down? Nobody knows. You drafted plenty of wide receivers, although I believe you'll be left with more to be desired at the receiver position this year, with Keenan Allen being your most talented one. Jeremy, your team name? Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Not very creative, but for those of you who don't know, that is the child from Home Improvement.
All right, moving on to one of our final 3. Wilbert Schultz. You took with your draft picks Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon, A.J. Brown, Odell Beckham Jr., A.J. Green, Kyler Murray, Zach Moss, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Gesicki, Damian Harris, Colts defense, Greg Zuerlein, Michael Pittman, and Tua Tagovailoa. Not bad. Overall, the football guys gave you a B+. You got a 167 from the Fantasy SP, a 88 out of 100 for the Fantasy Pros. Jack gave you an A. RotoTrade only gave you an 81, but they projected your record to be 7-6. Who'd have guessed? Josh, break down your 4 S's for the Willie squad.
My favorite pick was Kyler Murray. I feel like he's going to have a decent season this year. I like him more than Dak. Not to say that I just don't necessarily like Dak. I don't. But I do think that Kyler Murray's going to have a decent season. My steal, I had Damian Harris. I think that with that backfield, without Tom Brady there, that backfield might see a little bit more stability. And so Damian Harris has been doing well in camp from what I've read. And granted, there are guys like Lamar Miller there, but he's coming off injury. The only thing that would throw a wrench into this is if Leonard Fournette ended up there somehow. Steamer won't play up to the ADP. Joe Mixon. I'm not a big fan of the Mixon. I am a big fan of the Mixon, but I just don't see him as at this point. Well, I guess there's been a lot of running backs off the board, but I don't see him as a second-round running back, especially in an offense with a rookie quarterback and a Trey Show line. So he is my steamer. Stinker, Odell. He had a down year last year. I feel like there could have been other guys on the board at this point. Just looking at this, Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, all of those guys I would have rather had over Odell personally. Gar, hit me up.
I will hit you up, Josh. My stud pick was Josh Jacobs. I know his ADP has been highly rising, but John Gruden wants to feed Josh Jacobs. Even at, the 12th pick? This is the 12th pick that Willie got him at. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a stud at that pick. He carried me to the championship game that I lost last year, so I know firsthand what Josh Jacobs can do for your squad. My steal, and this is a guy I was thinking about drafting late, but I already had too many other people at this position, or too much other depth. Michael Pittman. Between him and Paris Campbell, it's kind of a mystery who the number 2 receiver in Indy is. We know Rivers loves to air it out. We also know that this team needs to throw the ball to someone. So if it's not T.Y. Hilton, who's it going to be? Michael Pittman is a rookie. Paris Campbell is in his second year, but someone's got to get it, and Pittman is could be poised to have a great season, so I think he will greatly outperform his ADP. Moving on, Josh, you had him as a steal. I have him as my steamer, Damian Harris, simply for the fact that I think Patriots running backs, are just much too volatile. You will end up having one or two that put up RB2 numbers, but it seems like they never perform the way they should. So Damian Harris is getting all the hype now, so that's almost a guarantee that he will be on the bench for the first 14 weeks of the season. My stinker, I put Tua Tagovailoa. First off, the Dolphins have made it clear that Fitzmagic is going to start the season. Second off, we don't need a second quarterback in this league. Third off, you have Kyler Murray. Fourth off, what the fuck are you doing? That's all I had to say. We'll move on to Jack's thoughts about your squad, Mr. Wilbert. Overall, I'm loving this team as I think your top 6 picks all will be getting drafted much higher next year than they are this year, meaning you got great value and so many options for people poised for breakout seasons with no real weakness either, except maybe a third running back depending on how Harrier/Moss do. I would say at this point, this team is the main threat to Team 10, and my pick for the other championship contender, solid A. So Josh, Willie is your biggest threat. And if you remember how last year went, Willie was your biggest threat.
I was my own biggest threat last year.
What did Walters think about Wilbert's squad, Josh?
Walters says Josh Jacobs and Joe Mixon are very, very nice picks. That's 2 varies, ladies and gentlemen. Your team has a lot of big-name players. However, you are banking on Odell and AJ to have bounce-back seasons, which I find to be a little bit risky. Overall, I feel your team is very solid, and as long as your wide receivers don't have terrible seasons, you should find yourself in the playoffs. Willie, your suggested team name, Judge Judy.
Not terrible, but Josh, have you seen what his team name currently is?
I have not.
His team name is currently, and I'm glad you're sitting down for this, his team name is the Catalina Wine Mixin.
Willie, your suggested team name is the Catalina Wine Mixin.
There you go. I thought you'd appreciate it. All right, Josh, hit us with that Jesse Squade.
DeAndre Hopkins, Aaron Jones, Amari Cooper, Mark Andrews, Michael Gallup, Marquise Brown, Darrell Henderson, Carson Wentz, Latavius Murray, Steelers D, Tony Pollard, Justin Tucker, Brashad Perriman, Daniel Jones. A- from Football Guys. Football or Fantasy SP give you a 197 out of whatever. Fantasy Pros, 93. Jesse, that's probably the only 93 you've ever seen as a grade. Jack B. Roto Trade gave you an 87, still a bit high from what you saw in school, but it's still a decent grade. 8-5 was your projected finish. Garlic, did you die?
No, I was... we'll get to it later. Jesse, my 4 S's for your squad. For my stud pick, I really like the Michael Gallup pick. Big Mike Denny's McCarthy has been hyping up Gallup hard in camp. It sounds like that offense is going to be going off. Mike McCarthy is not unknown for that, so it's possible that Gallup gets plenty of touches, especially with Amari Cooper probably being doubled and the threat of CeeDee Lamb looming. For the steal, I picked Hollywood Brown. For some reason, this guy is falling in drafts. He's the number 1 receiver on a team that had the most passing touchdowns in the league last year. So, even if you think there's regression, this guy's going to get a lot of looks. Hollywood Brown will definitely outperform his ADP. My steamer, DeAndre Hopkins. This air raid offense will probably net DeAndre Hopkins less targets than he got last year because Deshaun Watson had literally no other options. It's not that DeAndre's bad. Definitely one of the top 3 talented wide receivers in the league from talent. But for fantasy purposes, I don't think DeAndre Hopkins will live up to his ADP, so he is my steamer. For my stinker, Jess, I didn't really give you a player. I just put down 1 starting running back. He took Aaron Jones in the 2nd, and then didn't take anyone until Darrell Henderson in the 7th, who is the alleged backup to Cam Akers. Even if they're splitting time, he's not the runaway starter. Latavius Murray is obviously the backup to Kamara, and Tony Pollard is obviously the backup to Zeke. So Jess is going a little bit with the Brian method of fading running backs, even though it didn't work out for Brian last year. So those are my thoughts, Josh, on Jess. What are your thoughts on Jess, Josh?
Stud Aaron Jones. Obviously, a little bit of a homer pick there, but I mean, as far as fantasy goes, last season, that's what most of these ADPs and most of these things are based off of, projections. Last season, he was one of the top running backs, and yet he's being taken after rookie Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake. I personally would have rather had Aaron Jones over them, especially in a offense like Green Bay where they're going to run some play action, screens. I think Jones is one of the top running backs in the league, a little bit biased. Now, some of you might be saying, well, they just drafted a rookie running back. Yes, they did, but they only drafted him because of his thighs. I don't think he's going to run the ball very often this season. My steal, Hollywood Brown. I agree. I don't know how he fell that far. And I'm kicking myself here for not taking him. But then again, I look at my team and realize if I would have taken a fourth wide receiver in the 6th round, I probably would be hurting quite a bit right now. Steamer, Garlic. Sit down. I put Mark Andrews.
What?
Yep. I love Mark Andrews. I have him in the Victoria's Secret League. But I feel like 4th round, it's early for him. I feel like there's going to be some regression there. Hayden Hurst is gone, so that may benefit him in some way, but he is not a blocking tight end. He is more of a pass catcher. My stinker, least favorite pick, I put Daniel Jones just because of backup, or not backup, a mouth-breathing dum-dum like Daniel Jones doesn't deserve to get drafted. But you also had Carson Wentz. Granted, Carson Wentz is made of glass, so Daniel Jones might be decent replacement for him when Carson breaks himself. But then as we were reading through your team, I noticed you got Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. They're on the same team, bud. Are you going to be putting out 2 Dallas wide receivers? And then you got Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. So you're in your top 6 picks. You have 4 guys on 2 different teams. Bold strategy, Cotton.
Oh, Jess, you didn't deserve all that. Just kidding, you did. Moving on to what Jack thought about the Jess, the Hick, the Tractor. Overall, I like a lot of the individual picks you made, but looking at this team as a whole, I am just worried for your running backs hurting you. Jones is a solid but lower running back 1, and beyond that, you might not even have anyone you can start. Hopefully something breaks right for 1 or 3 of your other options, but if not, this puts you in a hole for your starting lineup. I'd give this team a B overall and a fringe playoff team like 5 and 8. 5 and 8 to fringe playoff team these days. I mean, we only have 7 teams making the playoffs, but I don't think 5 and 8 is fringe. If we have 7 playoff teams.
Interesting.
What did Walters have to say about Jesse, Josh?
Walters said, your first 4 picks are very, very good. I love your wide receivers, although you seem to be a bit thin at running back. Overall, a decent team.
Wow, what a positive guy.
Yeah, apparently he doesn't know what team half of these players play for. But yeah, so moving on, can you spit some of Garrett's players at us?
Are you not going to give Jesse a free team name or whatever you're calling it?
Oh,
you should smack your lips together.
Like a polar picture.
Shake it like a polar picture. It's not stupid. It's not the worst. It's not the worst. I'll give you that.
Amari Cooper, super pooper trooper.
All right, stop while your head, pal. The super
Jesse, I will give you permission to steal my team name from the Victoria's Secret League, in which I have DeAndre Hopkins, and you can go with Nuke Skywalker because his nickname is Nuke.
Nuke Skywalker isn't bad. Super Coopers isn't bad. I'm sure you can come up with something in there as well, Jess. Anyways, moving on to the final team, the Gare Bear with 2 R's. Let's make that clear. This is a Garrett kind of Garrett. That's the kind of Garrett he is. But with the 14th pick, he took, and then others, including Kenyon Drake, Julio Jones, Tyler Lockett, Devin Singletary, Dak Prescott, Evan Ingram, John Brown, Justin Jefferson, Duke Johnson, Darius Slayton Harrison, Butker, Roby Anderson, Cowboys defense, and then Antonio Brown in the final pick. Not Mr. Irrelevant, but in the final round, this guy takes Antonio Brown. The football guys gave him a B-. Fantasy SP gave him a 191. The Fantasy Pros gave him an 89. Jack gave him a B+. plus. Roto trade gave him an 84 with a projected record of 7-6. Josh, wake up.
Yeah.
What are your four S's on the Garrett Bear?
Tyler Lockett. He is definitely the number one there in Seattle. Steele outplays his projection. Evan Ingram. Someone's got to catch the ball in that horrible football state. And so I figured, why not Evan Ingram? He's shown flashes of success when he's not hurt. Steamer won't play up to the ADP. Dak. I've already mentioned that I don't necessarily like Dak. That team is, it runs through Zeke. Dak did throw up some decent numbers last year, but then he kind of fizzled out near the end. I personally would have taken somebody else there, potentially somebody like Hollywood Brown or J.K. Dobbins, Raheem Mostert, any of those guys that kind of in that starting range, and then held out for a quarterback later. My stinker, least favorite pick, Devin Singletary. They drafted Zach Moss. You took Devin Singletary in the 4th. There were guys still available. James Conner, David Montgomery, Melvin Gordon. Those names I would have taken over Devin Singletary personally.
Roger that. For my stud for Jesse, it is Julio Jones. Even though it was Jesse's, was it his first round pick or
it's Garrett?
Oh, excuse me. Jesus. Garrett. Julio Jones was the 15th pick. Julio Jones is a stud. He could have easily gone earlier than that in the first. The dude, for some reason, is an ageless wonder. He's not that old, but for guys his age, he is outperforming most of them that have ever played. Jesse's fucking stupid. Moving on to my steal, Darius Slayton. I certainly think he will overperform his ADP based on the fact that he had a good year last year, and him and the D Jones, I forget his rookie or his nickname from last year, but they seem to have a great relationship going. My steamer, Kenyon Drake. I just don't think this guy's going to be the savior for the Cardinals offense that everyone thinks he is. And my stinker, Justin Jefferson. You took Justin Jefferson way too fucking early. So, Danny Dimes. Oh, thank you in the chat. There's a name I don't recognize in the chat that reminded me that Danny Dimes was the nickname in for Daniel Jones last year. So thank you, Blake Rhino? I don't know how to pronounce your name, but thank you for the Danny Dimes shout out. And Jesse also said he'll watch the rest on Spotify, which, Jesse, Spotify is audio only, you big dumb shit. Also, Jack wants to point out...
he's going to watch it.
He probably will. Also, back to Jack, when he said that the 5-8 was a fringe playoff team, he wasn't talking record, even though that's exactly how it was written. He meant 5th to 8th place. So, for what it's worth, Jack tried to save himself via text message. Moving on to Jack's final thoughts, though, on the Garrett Bear Squad Supreme. Overall, this feels like a decently solid team, but I'm not sure you have enough top-end picks with upside to win and take over. You have a very safe team that should be in it each week with a chance at winning every matchup, but other teams have more guys that could go off and win. While you have the feel of a team that should score 90 to 100 every week, but never really that 115-plus week that takes over. I think it's a B+ for me, and likely to make the playoffs, but probably not a great chance at making it to the top.
Walters came in and said, your starting lineup is full of solid players. However, I feel you'll be sweating your running back position all season, especially during bye weeks. I like your team, just need more running back depth. Now, Garrett, your team name is probably not relevant to anybody except for those that watch the league. But I'm going to go ahead and say the Brown Note.
Ooh, I like it. I like it, Josh.
Finishing strong. As far as teams to make the playoffs, Walters has teams 1, 4, 7, 8, 10, 12, and 13. So Jesse, despite everybody ragging on you, Walters has you and your 3 teams of starting players making the playoffs.
Yeah, I noticed how we left out my team, so that's kind of fucked up, Walters. I thought we were friends. You didn't know it was my team because I gave it to you with the team names blurred out, but definitely fucked up of you. Blake put in the chat, got a question for you guys when you're ready. Blake, you can go ahead and shoot that into the chat whenever you want. It won't interrupt us mid-sentence, so go ahead and put that question out there, and we will answer it as long as it's not something too silly. But, Josh, that is all 14 teams. We just got a couple of great leaderboards, and we're almost out of here. How do you feel? Are you exhausted yet? Is Nikita going to be mad again?
I mean, I've been exhausted since we started. I'm more mad than her. I've had to pee for the last half an hour, and I feel like Blake's question is going to be insulting to both of us.
Hopefully, we definitely deserve some insults. But anyways, Josh, moving on to the draft grade leaderboards. In the football guys, Josh, you and Brad are ranked first. You both got A's. Eric and Derek and Jamie and Jesse are all tied for third with A minuses. Hammer and Willie are tied for seventh with B pluses. Nikita has I did this wrong. Nikita has ninth alone with a B. Garlic, Jeremy, and Garrett are all tied for 10th with a B minus. Brian is 13th with a C plus, and T is last with a C. That took a little too long, but we'll just say for Fantasy SP, the gradings we don't understand at all. Eric was first, then Brian, Jesse, Garlic, Garrett, Brad, Hammer, Nikita, T, Derek, Josh, Willie, Jeremy, and Jamie. Moving on to the Fantasy Pros. Josh, you were the top of that one. Then it went Eric, Garlic, Brad, Jesse, Hammer, Garrett, Derek, Willie, Jamie, Nikita, Brian, Jeremy, and T. And if this seems too decipherable for you listening to understand, I will share the spreadsheet with you where all this information will be available. You can read at your leisure. But if we take all those rankings and we sum them together for a consensus of the computer algorithm's rankings, Josh, who do we have going top to bottom according to the AI overlords?
Eric, Jesse, Brad, Josh, Garlic, Hammer, Garrett, Derek, Brian, Jamie, Willie, Nikita, Jeremy, T.
T, the consensus last team, however, tied with Jeremy. I technically didn't put in the tied rankings in there like I did for everything else, but T, you're not dead last alone. You're dead last with someone else.
And I just want to go out and say, Fantasy SP, I don't know who this Blake character is, but if you work there, get a better system. Because
I don't think Blake is associated with Fantasy SP in any way.
I don't even know who Blake is. Not that I don't want to know you, Blake. You seem like a genuine fella. But I had Football Guys, top ranking. Fantasy Pros, top ranking. Jack's top ranking, Walter's top ranking, and yet Fantasy SP 10th, 11th.
Oof.
What is this?
That sucks to suck, Josh.
Fantasy stupid people.
Speaking of Jack, we did list all the computer/algorithm rankings first. Moving on to Jack's more human touch. Josh, you were first overall in Jack's, but tied with Willie. Both had A's. Jamie and I and Hammer were tied for third with an A minus. Garrett was alone with a B plus in sixth. Derek, Nikita, and Jesse tied for seventh with a B. Eric and Brian tied for 10th with a B minus. Brad and Jeremy tied in 12th with a C plus, and then T still at the bottom. So if you combine the Jack and the computer rankings, Josh, you catapult to first. You move up 3 spots. Eric moves down a spot to second. Jesse moves down a spot to third. I move up a spot to fourth. Hammer moves up a spot to fifth. Brad moves down 3 spots all the way to sixth. Jack faded you hard, Brad. Garrett stays at seventh. Derek stays at eighth. Willie moves up 2 spots to 9th. Jamie stays at 10th. Nikita moves up 1 to 11th. Brian gets faded hard as well, down 3 spots to 12th. Jeremy stays at 13th, and T stays at 14th. And with Jack's rankings, they are not tied. So T, you are alone in this one, unfortunately.
What did Canups do to Jack?
He fucking hates him. I don't know if Jack has interacted with Brad maybe once in his life. And he was like, I hate this guy and the father that fucking spawned this demon into the world.
Why is this kid wearing a high-res vest?
Why is he in a fucking Mr. McGiblets fucking costume? That'd probably be the only time they interacted was that.
That's probably it.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to get to Blake's questions here before we hit the outro. He says, I have CMC and Josh Jacobs. I traded James Conner and Watson for Amari. 12-man half-point PPR redraft league. I'm scared of James Conner getting hurt. Fair trade, you say? So to be clear, it was CMC and Josh Jacobs, but he traded James Conner and Watson, assuming Deshaun Watson, for Amari Cooper, Josh. Do you like the James Conner and Deshaun Watson or Amari Cooper better in that trade in half-point 12-man PPR?
I mean, if it's not a super flex, I would definitely take the Cooper side of things. I mean,
Really?
Watson, yeah. I mean, I'm not high on James Conner. I'm afraid of his injuries. And then that offense, it's fizzled since the triple Bs have left. But yeah, Cooper definitely had a turnaround last year once he got into Dallas. I kind of expect that to continue, especially if Gallup is a number 1 wide receiver, like Big Mike says.
Denny's.
But then who are his other running backs? Josh Jacobs and CMC?
Yes, he says he has CMC and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, and I guess wanting to know his other wide receivers. I mean, those two in your starting running back positions, and then if Cooper is in your flex, yeah, I'd say that's a solid play. I'm guessing Cooper would be in one of your wide receiver slots, though, in which I'd still think that Cooper is going to be above James Conner.
So
quarterbacks are dimes a dozen.
Blake wrote, as you were talking, he says, I got Robert Woods and Will Fuller and Deontay Johnson. So Robert Woods for sure a starter. Fuller is a fringe too, could also be in the flex, but Amari definitely takes that 1 or 2 spot. So he'd be running Amari and Woods for sure. Maybe Fuller in the flex. Maybe Deontay Johnson in the flex. Maybe someone else we don't know about in the flex. So I guess it would.
Yeah, no. I would like that, and then whoever you get in quarterback. I mean, you got to look at it. Maybe not last year, but guys like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes kind of came out of nowhere when it comes to fantasy relevance. So play the waiver wires and grab somebody that's going to be a stud.
There you go. Blake says, appreciate it, you boys. He also said earlier, I dropped a sub so I can get to know you guys better. Blake, I don't know how you heard about us. We're probably not on any search in any algorithm anywhere for anyone's suggested videos, but we appreciate you, Blake. And if it's someone else on a Smurf account, I still love you for faking fan interaction right now because that's makes me and Josh feel good for a moment. But you know what, Blake?
Blake, get out of here. Just...
Blake, be a friend, tell a friend. Tell your friends they can come in here. Obviously, we have no actual viewers, no actual friends. You can come in here and you can interact with us as we go live once a week. The schedule's going to be changed in a bit, but it'll be solid by October. But Blake, be a friend, tell a friend. Make a bunch of Smurf accounts. Help us get to 100 subscribers, Blake. I'm challenging you because all our other friends are already subscribed and we ran out of people. We ran out of friends. So, all right, Josh.
Also, did you mention the FanDuel challenge? Maybe Blake wants to get in on that.
Oh, the FanDuel challenge is full. We have 20 people, and that's the max.
Maybe next year, Blake.
Don't worry, Blake. You can still submit other stuff just through emails, through comments, through whatever. Facebook.com/shouldpod. Anyways, Josh, moving on to the outro. I know you want to get out of here. Do you have any other final words about the draft or about the upcoming Hood fantasy season?
Thanks for the money. Bye, everybody.
All right, next week we are going into our fantasy predictions and our week 1 preview. We are also going to unveil our first Fave 5 topic that will come in the next week after that. Unveil, whatever.
Not cheap.
Whatever, Josh. We're doing Fave 5s, and the first topic will be announced so you guys can play along with your lists. Josh, I put a note in there for you. You can text that to me later or figure it out tomorrow at work. Anyway, stay safe, guys. COVID is real. The country is in turmoil. The world is hurting, but stay safe. We want you to be around for a long time. Blake, like I was just shouting at you, journey to 100 subscribers. Be a friend, tell a friend. We'd love to get up to 100 so we can have a custom URL. HiddenOaksOverdose@gmail.com, Facebook.com/hoodpod, Anchor.fm/hoodpod. You can leave us 1-minute voicemails at a time. And that's all we got, Josh. We love you. We'll be back. Is next week Wednesday or is next week a Friday for us, Josh?
Wednesday.
Next week is a Wednesday, so we'll be back here 5 p.m. next Wednesday, assuming Josh doesn't get a phone call from his mom right before we go live, everybody. I love you. We will see you then.
Boosters.
So Blake, you filtered by Live Fantasy Football. That is us. Shout out to the tags finally doing something for us. If you have any other questions, we will be live again next week, or you can hit us up on Facebook. We'll be there as well. Facebook.com/hoodpod. Throw a comment, shoot us a message, whatever. Josh and I are a bunch of stooges that don't actually know anything, but we'll pretend to know stuff. Go ahead and look at all the other videos on the channel. Look for episode 51, the reintroduction. We just recorded a podcast reintroducing ourselves to the world. It's probably hard to hear me right now because the music is playing, but go listen to the reintroduction pod. You'll learn more about me and Josh, and we'd love to have you in the fandom. All right, that's for real. Bye, everybody. Miss you already.